Yeah, well, it looks like we're live, I think.
We are live.
Awesome.
Okay. Hello,
Evening.
everybody, to the first episode of the Comics Della Morte, the show where
Hello.
we talk about horror comics because we are tired of superheroes and their tights. We're
Talk
here
about
to
horror
dis-
comics
yeah.
because we are tired of.
Oh,
All right. So
so
what's
we're so the first comic we're going to talk about is the Tales of Horror, issue 1. And we're going to talk about one of the very first comics in there is The World's Ugliest Man. So, Robert, what do you think about this comic?
I liked it a lot. You know, the thing about reading these older comics is you got to kind of like, you just got to know that it was written in the 50s. Like this one, I
different
believe
time?
was
Yeah.
54, and so like some of the references and stuff are kind of, you might not get, but the cool thing is that it's like a transcendent story basically, like it could be in any time, like it's kind
Right.
of like um I don't know, it's just it could be in any setting, but the basic story itself, you know would fit in anywhere. But as far as specifically, um I liked it a lot. I really did. Uh I mean, do we want to get into specifics or what? I mean, because
Yeah,
Oh
I would
yeah,
say
I
just
mean,
go for it,
oh
man. Like
okay,
definitely
we'll
so
go into
piggyback off of
detail.
you.
first off, me being, just the way I am, the first thing is when the guy, the main, the guy of the main story, uh
Hmm.
the ugly guy, the first thing he does is try to give a little girl some ice cream, and I'm like, that wouldn't happen these days. Like, no way. Like, just some weird dude like trying to hand a little girl some ice cream, like, so it's like, that threw me off a little bit. But
Hmm.
I guess people did stuff like that back in the 50s, and it was cool.
Times
I
is
don't know.
different, I guess. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I thought that was a little creepy and stuff. And then you know, and then I was like, okay, the other thing that kind of caught me off is like, it's like comic logic. There's a store that sells masks. Like you just
Yep.
happen to find it. And stuff like that. But you find, are we gonna do spoilers or what? I mean, or like,
Oh well, I actually read up something to give the readers like a short detail of how it is. So, all right. The Ugliest Man in the World, scripted by Elliot Kaplan, pencils by uh, my Melron Flask. In this tale, we read about Bill Becker, a man deformed at birth. The town finds him as a monster. But what is worse, his own brother Franklin hates him and rather focus on entertaining his friends until one day Bill comes across a shop selling masks made of beautiful men's faces.
yeah. And that's where that reference thing comes in, because they're like, do you want to look like this person, this person? Like, I've never heard of any of those people. I guess they were like,
Right,
you know,
exactly. You know.
uh,
Well, of course, it sets place back in the 50s. So
yeah,
they're naming off all these different
Right.
50s famous people.
Right.
yeah,
And it it's that type of horror in the 50s where you didn't have all the score and everything, and just the dialogue alone sounds like it belongs in a Outer Limits or a
Right.
Twilight Zone episode. But it
Yep.
yeah,
just the dialogue alone is very beautiful, and it has like that poetry to it. Like just reading some of the dialogue itself is like jewels can be covered by a dirty old rags, and the heart of a
Yeah.
good man can be hidden by a ugly face. Stay with me for a minute or two and learn Bill Becker's strange story. And I'm like, and you're gonna add, and this is the Twilight Zone to that because it should.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And that, yeah, that guy, I don't know what his name is. I don't know what he's referred to as.
I
Uh,
know.
but he's throughout the stories, like he's the narrator basically.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah,
yeah,
because in all horror stories, there's always some type of narrator. Because
hmm
some people that don't know, there's actually a lot of people that don't know the Tales of the Crypt TV show is based off a comic book series. And if it wasn't for the comic book series, you would never have the TV show.
Yep.
Right. And
Your favorite movie is a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. 9
Exactly.
times out of 10.
You know, like the Twilight Zone and Outer Limits and stuff. They all Night Gallery. They all had that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, the narrator, and that came from the comics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even in movies, there was like the little guy at the beginning of all the cheesy movies and stuff. And,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, like his dialogue throughout all of the different stories, it's really like it's written that way. It's like kind of like a poetic writing, you know. And he's like the one that holds your hand through the thing, you know. Like, I'm going to show you this, you know, and then. I like that whole aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best reading that I've read. Like, it was, I don't know, it was just good reading. Like, it was good. It was the best written comics that I've read in a while. Like, I know it's been out for a long time, but I loved it.
Yeah, give your opinion, Jason.
I enjoyed it. I did write some notes down. Pretty much the same thing you said, Robert. Like, there was a few things that I noticed right off the bat. The cover was like attention grabbing, like just with the censor of like, this is like the ugliest man in the world, and he's so ugly that they had to censor his face on the cover. Like, that was pretty cool. It's very early Frankenstein's monster. Like, the inspiration is there. And in my notes I put that, trying to connect with anybody with balloons and ice cream. And I even put in my notes, like, you shouldn't seek kids out. Like, if you're trying to make friends, you shouldn't seek kids out first. The brother is the worst. The brother is just a crappy human being.
Yeah, he was like
100%. Yeah, and it was so funny. I thought, again, like, not in a this was written bad way. It was just an interesting thing for the hero to go into a pawn shop that has a sign in the window that says new faces when he needs a new face, and it didn't really backfire on him. Like, even the guy was like, come back when you really need something.
Yeah.
He never really needed anything. But it was like, it worked. Like, he bought a face and it worked out for him. But it should have, because the karma that his brother had coming to him for the way that he was, like, you know what? Yeah, there had to be a balance somewhere, because it was solid message in a story. Like, even like now you could, the outcome is a little bit different, but it was kind of like early speaking out against body shaming, like in its own its own funky way. And again, like, look, you can get a message across in a comic without all the extras or without the agenda, and like, mission accomplished. I thought that the art told the story well, and I thought that the writing, I could have read that whole story without one picture and I would have enjoyed it just as much. So, like, solid comic on both sides. Like, it was everything that you would expect from a non-superhero comic, but still spooky and scary, still that Twilight Zone feel.
Yeah
and interesting enough, the writer actually went on to create a comic called The Heart of Julia Jones, which actually became like a romance comic. So, like you were saying, that the hero was actually the monster, and in the comic he actually find love and romance, and you could really see that, where he had a happy ending, and the Beautiful Brother is the one who really didn't have a happy ending, and he was the real monster.
Yep.
And it was one of those things, even during that time, it was trying to tell kids that, hey, you have to be kind to each other.
Be nice. Yep.
Yeah. There was like, dude, they had a lot of nice little setups and a lot of nice little, I don't know, man, just the writing, like you were saying about Fogbreaker, about like when he was in the shop, he said, the shop owner was like, come back when you really need something. And then later on, he tried to find a shop and couldn't find it. So he didn't really need anything. He was just trying to please other people. And, that was a cool little, callback kind of, like a what do you call it? Like they're setting something up.
Yeah.
And
then, it was solid overall.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, there was something else I was thinking about the brother and stuff, but like it was so funny because like he was like they made him so like you just couldn't like the guy,
There
was no like redeeming quality about him, like he was just a total jerk. And it's like it was cool because it's like, okay, they didn't have to go into like all the reasons and stuff either. Like,
right,
how come he lives with his brother? Like,
right,
yeah, exactly.
Like they didn't like totally flesh everything out like that, but it was like you didn't need it,
No,
and it's nice to read a story where there's a beginning and end, and that's it. Like that was really cool. Like, like you don't have to go find other issues and all this stuff. Like you get one little story and bam,
And the artwork is made very good. Like it showed ways that you could take simple color and just make a point, because when he was showing like the mask, you saw the shopkeeper had multiple color, and you had the coat of the ugly brother, and then the mask was nothing but just a simple white with some black ink, but the simple white and the black ink, that was the focal point of where the reader's attention needed to be,
Yeah.
And just throughout this whole book, it just where the artist wanted the focal point to be, it just had simple like a purple color, just a solid purple color, or just a solid color in general, instead of like this like multiple colors like we see a lot of comic books have today.
Yeah, I'm taking a lot of cues from that. Like that's a lot of the stuff I'm doing is really like I'm I'm trying to do it in a newer way, but use that real simple. Because that's effective. You know what I mean? Like, like if you're watching a movie or something, that's one thing. But like, if you're looking at a flat page that doesn't move, you need something extra. And those kinds of colors. That's what I noticed too. Like through this whole thing, it was like, man, some of the colors and the way they would show certain people when they were talking.
Hey, Frank.
Or thinking.
What's up? What's up, Salazar Art Nation? How's it going, man?
What's happening? We're back in a different way.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're coming back too, but I can only I can't host anything right now because of my computer.
But yeah, Frank, like Fogbreaker said, this was made back in 1952.
Yep.
So what else you guys got more to say about the comic?
Okay, we're still sticking with the first one. I don't know. I thought that the Phantom narrator like was really, it was done well because he was consciously hidden in a lot of shots, and it was just like with as much dialogue was in there to fit his in there as well, and I never felt like it was crowded. Now, my lean is towards writing, so I enjoy it, and I dug that. There's none of these. You can't get, you can't submit a comic if you have X amount of words in a word bubble. No, it was like they were confident in their storytelling and they were confident in the art, and they both worked together. I didn't feel like I was missing any of the artwork with the dialogue, and the dialogue was really easy to read, which is a reason why I didn't, I had a hard time reading older comics when I was younger because I felt like it was too hard to follow. But but no, I don't know. I thought it was well done. Like I thought that it showed that you don't have to rely on one or the other. Like you can have a book that looks good, but you can also have a book that's written really, really well, and you're not trying to like condense things too much to elevate the artwork, and I felt like the artwork was solid, but again, it was just a very well written book. Like it's so few and far between that you read a book that you get lost in the words of, and then the pictures are secondary.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what a lot of comics I feel are missing, is that it's so much about trying to draw a really cool scene that they just forget about the whole dialogue and grabbing the reader's attention by having these like really cool words
Right.
and stuff like that. Because if you're giving a speech, that the first few words is going to grab the reader's attention, and you should do that in a comic.
Yep.
Because after all, having a cool action scene is only going to get you so far in a comic.
Right. And
and I feel that's the way with some of these horror comics or even horror movies in general has gotten.
Yeah, like okay, like I'm like I like to write and stuff, but I'm definitely more of an artist, so I'm always looking for the art and stuff.
Yeah.
Like if okay, just flipping through and not reading, it's like okay, it's pretty cool, I see all those words and I'm like, oh man. But it went by so fast, and like they both complement each other. You can't just like look at all the pictures and like like get the whole thing. You really need to read it. And it went so fast because it was interesting. So like I don't know, like I think like their use of a lot of words and stuff like fits really well. Like I think I guess that's why they call it the golden age, because this is when everything was golden, man. I mean,
everything was at its optimum level. Yeah. You know what I think it was, Ogre, and Ronnie? It's crazy because it's like with that many words, I found myself a lot like, you get closer and closer to your pad. And that's like building that horror mood. Like it's the same thing, because now it's like you're reading these words and they're so descriptive. It's like they're trying to draw you in. And then you're looking at the pictures like you're fully immersed in this book, man. Like for a book from 1952. And for us, like we're used to reading 22-page comics, right? And so it's like when you hit that first page and that second page and the story is like you're getting into it. And then it wraps up in another page and a half. Like, you're like, whoa, I was just getting into the story. But not only is it done, it didn't really feel like it was cut short. You were just into it. You know, it was just like, I wanted more, but there was really no more to give. And I think that's like a solid, like in baseball, it's like, that's a solid double. Like it bounced over the fence. So it's like, you can run the second base at your leisure. Like it's a double, consistent, and I loved it. Like it was good. I liked it. It was the best story to start that book with.
And the thing is too, also like it's not like, I don't know, like it's always like what is horror, you know what I mean? Like like you might look at that and there's not, I mean there's not really a horror aspect, but there is. Like it's like I don't know, like there was no blood. I mean, the guy's face was disfigured and stuff. I mean, that's probably like, and there was a few supernatural elements and stuff, but like you wouldn't, I don't know. Like, I don't know if people would consider that horror these days, but that's the good thing about horror is like, think about back then, like that must've been like something, that was horrifying. Like, okay, well, you can't get this off your face,
Right.
Like,
well, yeah, because he bought the mask and it stuck to his face, and it basically became a part of him,
right?
And it has supernatural elements, and anything supernatural to a lot of people is can be horrifying. So people have to look at it. Oh, just because it has no blood and gore, it can't be horror. I mean, we grew up in the 80s that everything has to be defined as that now.
Right.
When back then in the 50s, you had the Wolfman and Frankenstein that didn't show that stuff. And that stuff is creepy and lives up to this day and is an iconic stuff.
Right.
Well, and here's the other thing. I think this story like really sums up like something that I've always kind of like, well, not always, but something I came up with recently. Like, why do people like horror and stuff? Just a normal person. Why would you want? I think like people like that the revenge thing, like
Mhm.
like the bad guy getting what he deserves, and like
Yep.
this is that story, like all
Yeah.
over, you know.
Mhm.
Right.
So
You
like,
know,
yeah, I think it sums up like the actual purpose of horror, like
right,
in most cases, you know.
right.
Like
It. Sorry, Rogue. I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
that's
Go
it,
ahead.
just a bad guy getting what he deserves. Like that's kind of like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, same thing in horror movie. I mean, action movies
Yep.
and other things
Mhm.
like that. But you know, that's kind of like how I always see like just any horror story really is. That's what it is, you know. Usually, I mean, there's different takes on it, but it's
Right.
usually the bad guy. Even like slasher movies and stuff. Like they make the teenage kids to where you don't like them. And so when they
Right.
Oh,
die, it's
yeah.
like, okay, good, you deserve that kind of.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Even if they're the
Yeah.
bad guy, but then the bad guy ultimately is the bad guy, so he's got to
Yep.
lose to
That's
be a
it.
real good person. And
Yeah.
like everybody
It
always
was.
gets what they deserve, you know.
Yep. It was. I felt that it was like the most horror in it was the brother. It was
Yeah.
just like, for this guy to have to
Live with this
for
dude.
yeah, he had to live like he had to
Yeah.
wake up like this, and everybody treated him like a monster. And he tried to be nice, but he'd go home and his brother was having a party and was like, "Don't even go in the room and close your door. You have to
Yeah.
leave while I have people over here."
Mhm.
And
Pretty
then
much.
he went out and got a mask, and his brother laughed at him for wearing a mask. It was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is your brother. Like, what more can you? There
Mhm.
was nothing else he could have done.
Yeah.
So
And then,
Right.
it was
and it
like,
showed like how his impact on him, because he would be
yeah,
like, he'd be like, if you don't like it, I'll take it off and stuff. Like he was always even trying to please his brother, you know.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah,
He idolized his brother, you know.
right.
Yeah.
It's just such. It was yeah, it was crazy. Like they nailed it. Like in so few pages. Like it was
Hmm.
Mhm.
it was a story, and yeah, it was Salvador Art Nathan said it reminds him of an episode of Goosebumps, and it was like, yeah, like
Yeah. Yeah.
all the good stories are always going to be a new take on something that somebody nailed long
Mhm.
ago. Like, even if you don't really know it, like there's a chance that you'll find like somebody will always have what they think your inspiration for a lot of your stories are, because these stories have been told time and time again. And so it's like, yeah, I immediately thought Frankenstein just with the picture of him with the ice cream and the balloon. I'm like, okay,
Right.
that
Right.
puts you right there,
Like Monster Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the next one,
Oh, the demons,
all
yeah.
right.
Demons below us.
Demons
Yeah, that was
Below Us.
that was
Well,
a
first
cool
off,
story.
you guys want to tell everybody who you are and where they could follow you?
All right. You want to go first, Ogre? Or you want me to?
Yep. Robert Ogre. I do videos sometimes. I'll probably get back to doing that. And I do have a website, Robert Ogre, and I have a few things on there. But other than that, I'm on Instagram. I'm all over the place. You never know where you're gonna find me. I'm like a ghost.
And of course,
But
I'll
I'm
put
somewhere
everything
doing
in the
something.
I'll put everything in the links.
All right. I'm Jason Alexander, Fallbreaker Studios. Find me on Instagram, Fallbreaker Studios. I am on Facebook as Jason Alexander. I also have a Fallbreaker Studios page, but most of my stuff goes to Instagram first. So that's usually the easiest place to find me.
All right. And they do amazing stuff. They really do.
Thanks, Ronnie.
But yeah, the Demons Below Us. Just in the beginning, I really like this book because this guy's in the hospital and these doctors are surrounding him. And this guy's like, this man is dehydrated and we just can't figure out what's going on. And we have to basically place his body in water at all times. And you just got like, the narrator standing by everyone. And, that's what I just loved about these old horror comics. The narrator's just hiding or even standing by everyone. And it's like,
right?
it's like, is this guy a ghost or are you just not paying attention to him?
Yeah.
Imagine if you saw this guy in the hospital, like while you were
Right?
sitting in the waiting room, telling you what was going on in this guy's room where he's soaking up water like a sponge.
So yeah,
you guys wouldn't believe what I see in here. They haven't spotted me yet.
But it's a really nice story because it's one of those things that you see the victim and then you have a flashback.
Yeah.
And it starts off where, you know, like he's in the hospital and the flashback, he's underground as like a mine worker. And during this, they're drilling a hole. And during the process, they find like an underground ancient civilization. And I guess at one point, one of the workers, he's coming by and he's memorized like almost like a mummy, and they touch him and he turns to ash, and they're like, whoa, what happened? And then next minute later, they walk in like this, like, what is it, like almost paradise, and everybody's like eating strawberries and stuff like this and just having a good old chill time.
Like a Greek,
but everyone's like, you know, yeah, exactly. But everybody's transparent like a ghost, you know? So it's like, and the woman's like, you know, you could live here forever and never grow old. But, you know, it's like, while the guy's like, you know, I got to stop you because you guys are like demons. You guys are abominations. And she's like, you know, trying to be seductive at the same time.
Right. You know, I wrote down, like, I looked at the first page because you get a pretty good feel for the first story in the first page, even if you don't read the dialogue. You see what's going on. And I looked at this page, and it's like the first page, the first panel is like him dancing in paradise. Then he's in the hospital. And then there's another picture. And then you flip the page. And like you were saying, like, then he's in this like high tech, like they're walking through this high tech corridor. And I was like, and then the first thing that this Phantom guy says is like, he said, this story has no beginning and no ending. I'm like, amen. Because I couldn't figure out where to start. So, but no, not a negative, because I love the story, but there was a lot going on in a little bit of pages, because I think it was even a little shorter than the first story, but it was something. No, it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it catches you by surprise. Like that's something that's like kind of a trope of the old comics. Like that first page kind of gives you like a summary of everything. There's like all these different pictures and, you know, different stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I just thought it was really cool. You know, how they use the dehydration like as a thing, like to explain like he's gonna be like he's dying or something, or he's like
turning to ash.
Like you know, I just thought that was really cool. Just a little, like, they didn't have to do that really. It was just one thing that tied everything together, you know. And also wanted to comment, I really liked when the guy turned to dust. You know, it's something real small, and it kind of like jumps from that one to the next. But like, man, I like that effect. Like in the drawing, I thought that was really cool. Like
they nailed it.
They have effects and stuff back
exactly.
Kind of like just the way they drew it. Like, I don't know, that just stuck out to me big.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing is that, you know, just like you were saying with that effect of them drawing the guy turning to ash, they didn't have the special effects to like, hey, let's take this dummy and test it out. You know, they had to use their own imagination, or basically, you know, let's make just a clay model or something like that and see how it looks, you know. And that was so great about people like Jack Kirby. They just used their imagination and pictured what things would look like.
Right. That's not easy to pull off in a still drawing. Like, to convey somebody being touched and their body evaporating. Like, it was pulled off in Avengers Endgame really, really well in 2018 or 2016, whenever that was. But this is a comic in 1952, and there was no motion. There was no motion, and there was no, like, there wasn't that Frank Miller series of pictures like he used to do with Daredevil. But you knew what happened.
Yeah.
You knew what happened. You knew he touched him and his body just disintegrated into ash. That's a pretty tough trick. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, you know, like, people might go look at it and be like, what, whatever. But it's like you gotta have all that context with it. The time that it was, the time they had to draw it and everything. It's just, I don't know. I just, for some reason, that stuck out to me big.
Right.
That, and also at the end, like the freaking narrator, he's like, here goes. What did he say? He said, "Man, I had notes, but I did them on my my pad, and every time I try to open it, everything starts stopping, so I can't read any of the stuff I put." But what did he say? He said, "Here goes." But they went anyway. The two hard-headed engineers, or something like that. Like everybody was telling them not to go.
Oh yeah.
Into the thing. I thought that was really funny. And then at the end, he's like, "There goes the specialist, and they're not going to know anything more than the doctors or whatever. But me and you know,
exactly,
like breaking the fourth wall, like
right."
Like, he's like, your guide to the stuff that's going on,
right?
Like, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that dialogue. I actually have the comic book open.
I think that story had the best
before they walk
sequence.
into the corridor for the first time.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, I think it has the best like visual sequences in this book. Like it was pretty fun.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing is that, like we were saying about before, horror today is all about gore, while this is about, coming across weird civilization that you don't understand.
Yeah. It was way cool. It really was.
And back then in the 50s, you're dealing with like different cultures that it's like, okay, who are these people, and where do they come from? I don't speak their language. I don't understand the foods that they eat. These people are weird to me.
Yep.
And some people treated them kindly. Some people treated them harshly.
Right.
So they wrote horror stories that related to those time periods that people could relate to.
Yeah, I think they didn't have to even like explain what they were or where they come from or anything. It was just like, it's this and that's it. You know what I mean? Like I think like even myself, like a lot of people too would want to have to explain the whole thing of where they came from, what they did, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just didn't do that. It was just like, they're here and that's it. And I mean, that's awesome. That like adds mystery to the story, and you know what I mean? Like,
it's kind of like the bar jokes. It's like, a priest, a nun, and a Muslim walk into a bar. It's like nobody asks how that situation happened. It's just like, now you're here's the situation, and now you're in it. Follow me real quick, like, and that's it. Like, you don't need a before and after. Like, let me just tell you a little story. And let me make it good enough to hold your attention, and then I'm out. I dig it. Yeah. But we're not trained like that. Like, it's tough. Like you were saying, like everything's got to have an origin story because somebody's gonna ask for it. But no, it don't. Like, if the story's good at the meat, like, give me the meat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need the top bread. Like, just let's get to it.
Right.
Tell me about that stuff later if I want to know about it,
Yeah, it's funny because some people like will even pick out like just weird things. Like, well, here's a good example. Last night, my wife never saw Return to Oz. Have y'all ever seen it?
Oh yeah, the 1985
many
movie.
Moons ago. Yeah.
And I hadn't seen it in a long time either, but it used to be my favorite movie when I was a kid.
And
that's like a kid's horror movie, like straight up. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
It's scary. But like we're watching it, and like the part with the little couch and they're flying and it's like wings or like palm things or something. And my wife was like, "There's no way them palm trees would hold up that thing." Right. As like a pumpkin, all these like weird things. I'm saying that with all this, you're gonna complain about palm leaves, Like,
right. That was where you could no longer suspend. That's your breaking point on suspension of disbelief. You're like, all right, I followed you everywhere, but there's no way you could fly with those palm fronds.
Yeah. It's funny. funny. But yeah, I
Yep.
mean, like, it's just hard. Like, some people, you have to be invested. You have to like
Yep.
suspend belief, and you know. But
That's
it's like
it.
I don't know, like especially the first two, they hook you in. Like, okay, yeah, it's goofy that there's like on the first story that there's like a store, that, but like you're invested, so
Right.
it's not like you really question it. You want to see what happens next, like that's
Right.
like the whole thing.
Right. It's instead of why is that there, you say, oh, you shouldn't go in there. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're in it now, so it's like, what do you do in this situation? Like, I don't know. I dig
Mhm.
it. But yeah, it
yeah.
requires suspension of disbelief.
Hmm.
Blair Witch Project, like I always told my wife that movie scared me so much because I had it because of my imagination. It was like that's what kept me up at night because I saw the things that you didn't see in the movie. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it was like that's what
Yeah.
I was afraid of. I wasn't afraid of what I saw. I was afraid of what I didn't see. And
Yeah.
it's like that's what is required to, like, if you can get somebody there, then you're telling a good story.
And look,
Mhm.
that there is a good example. Now when people watch Blair Witch, they don't like it because it's they don't show anything. It's just like shaky camera. But like when it first came out, that there was nothing like that.
Yep.
So it was scary,
Yep.
but it doesn't translate.
Right.
Okay, like people, these old stories we're reading, they do. Like you could read
Right.
this like in 10 years and it's still gonna have the same meaning.
Right.
Like it'll still, you know what I mean? Like there's they'll
Yeah.
still, you won't get the little inside or time
Right.
period jokes or whatever, but like
But you appreciate that you like stuff that you didn't know why you liked it when you get older. You look
Yeah,
back
yeah.
on the
Oh,
things
yeah.
that you like and you say, wow, like that was so much more complex than I thought it was, and I liked it then. And I didn't
Mhm.
even know why. And now with an older brain, I get to listen to it or I get to watch it, and it means so much more because it's a
Mhm.
part, it's a part of your story, and it's also new. It's also new again, like it was relevant. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
mattered, and that's what I got from these stories because they were Aesop's fables.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
really were.
Mhm.
Like, get in, story with a message, get out. It was just like that guy was right. They should have forgot about the door. Like that was the best solution for the problem. Is they see the door and then they pretend that it's not even there. But the more they went into it, the more they could never get out. And then he
Yep.
kissed a ghost. And then he was a ghost. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
Don't kiss ghosts. Like the first story, don't give balloons to kids. This story, if you see a ghost, don't kiss it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Every story has a
Tell you
moral.
not to go down
Yeah,
there. Don't
yeah.
go down there.
Right.
And then just go back to the artwork, like one scene here in particular, you have him talking to one of the workers in the mines, and like the artist himself, like the main character, he's like in white and blue, and the person that he's talking to is like in a orange and white, while the characters that have no dialogue at all is like a solid pink and a solid purple, have no
Yeah.
other color, just a solid color, because the artist is not wanting you to focus on those two characters. They're wanting you to focus on the people that actually matter at that point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Stage directions without writing stage directions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was on my
and
notes
just
too. They
and
did the best with out of the three. That story was the best with color, I think.
Yeah.
Because even with the mines, like you would think that, okay, we're underground, we're gonna make everything brown. No, it's like we're gonna like add green, we're gonna add yellow, because we want to make things like dark and greedy, but not like a brown all the time. We're gonna add color, but we're gonna keep it still dark and spooky in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's some angles where like you see the main the main star of the comic have like almost like that same green and yellow lighting on the side of his face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, this story, I agree with you 100%, Ogre. Like, this story was driven with good artwork. Like, this story nailed it with solid artwork. And here's what I got a kick out of in the story. It's one tiny panel, but I thought that it transitioned the story from physical to metaphysical so quick. It was a tiny panel where they were walking through like a steel, perfectly engineered hallway. Nothing else looked like that in the story. Nothing else before it, nothing else after it. But that little panel said to you, okay, now I'm going beyond what I would normally see in a mind. Like now I'm through the veil. Like anything beyond this point is long gone, because it kind of looked like a coffin almost. It was like they were walking in a coffin, and it was like, okay, now they've transitioned to the other world. Like this is where they died. Like there was no coming back from here. From this point on, nothing was the same. Yeah,
if I remember right, I think that one was like a solid color too. That was that was different from all the rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It looked like chrome. It was the only panel that had a shine in the panel. It was
the floor had like almost a chrome glass look.
Yeah, it was like a panel out of Watchmen, just a blip, and then it was gone. I don't know. It was just it was the perfect doorway to walk through, to know, like as the reader, to know that now this is where the supernatural part of the story is.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's like, this is where, it's like you're going from, like you said, it's like from the normal world to, the mysterious and the unknown.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
So yeah, great stuff.
It was. Yeah, I like that one too. It's so weird, this was just like like people just threw away comics and stuff back in the day. It was just like a little thing, but man, it's like we can get so much out of it,
All those pages was 10 cents, y'all. 10 cents.
I know, 10 cents.
A fraction of a penny per page, almost per story. That in itself is bananas. You got gold writing and gold art through 95% of the book. And it was a dime. It was a dime. I've dropped a dime and not gone after it, like a bunch. And like you could have bought a whole comic book that is awesome for a dime. I don't know. You can't do it now, but I don't know why I'm like preaching about it being a dime like it is now, but it was I don't know. I got a kick out of it.
Yeah. I mean, they were definitely cheap, I mean, they were just, they were just cheap entertainment,
Yeah.
Man, you can't even go to a candy store and get candy for 10 cents anymore.
Nope. I remember when I was a kid, you could drop a nickel in that Brock's thing and get just grab candy, and nobody ever cheated it for some reason. But like two candies are a comic book that we've already read 2 awesome stories out of, and you can pay $4 for a comic and be like, well, I was kind of confused. Like Doomsday Clock was expensive, and I didn't like most of those issues.
Yeah. But the next.
I was gonna say, Frank said, "I think I follow all of you everywhere." Appreciate that, Frank.
Word up, thanks, Frank.
That's scary, man. What you mean?
Nice.
I'm just kidding.
I thought I saw you, Frank, outside.
Also, that's good, Robert.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the next one. Okay, I gotta say, aesthetically, Timmy.
Yes, Willie.
Yep.
Aesthetically, I liked it a lot because I like the old gangster stuff.
And
horror too.
Very gangster story.
Yeah.
This was what's happening in Dick Tracy when you're not reading the comic strip. Like
and
it's pretty
and
dope.
some of the characters actually has like almost that Dick Tracy art style.
That's what I was gonna say.
The way their faces are drawn.
The artist was very distinct in making everybody's face different.
Yep.
Even though like some of the panels you could tell like he probably drew like a little small and then they blew up and it looked good when it was small, but but like you could still tell who everybody was. He was trying to like make everybody look different, and you could tell.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of that comic particularly.
And for anyone, anyone that doesn't, for people to know, the comic Willie, what it's about is that it's a mafia book, And Willie is this guy who pretty much, when he gets shot at, bullets don't affect him. So this guy's like indestructible. And his brother's like what, the enforcer of a mafia, I think.
Yeah.
Trying to understand, he's the enforcer. So he pretty much does anything that his brother tells him to. And
Right.
he goes out there. He's like, hey, you know, take care of this guy. And Willie would pretty much do anything. And everyone's afraid of Willie because the guy's an unstoppable beast. So,
Right.
you know, of course you're going to be afraid of a guy that pretty much can't die, you know.
Mhm.
So it has that horror element to it.
Right.
Yep. And,
So I hate to
uh,
like shoot right towards the end, but y'all
Mhm.
probably can tell me better than I can. What happened at the end of that book? Like, what happened to Willie?
I had to read it really well.
Okay, because I couldn't figure out what happened to Willie. I was lost, and I gave up. I was like, I'm just gonna ask him tomorrow, like as quick as I can, because I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to Willie, but he did.
He was set free, don't you know? No.
Nice. Y'all are too much, man.
Now the thing is that Willie, for the readers to know that Willie, he had a learning disability, so he pretty much did anything that his brother would tell him to do.
Yeah,
So
he's
it's
a flunky.
like, so his brother is like, hey, do this, you know, no questions asked, you know, go out and kill this person, kill that person. And even the writer, the way he wrote the dialogue, wrote it in a way that you could tell that this person had some type of speech impediment or some type of like learning disability, which was really cool to like sit down to actually read that, to know that this person had that type of like problem.
Yep. Yeah, that was you know, they displayed it kind of weird, you know, but it was back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because you know they really didn't know how to during that time period.
Right.
Yeah, but it was cool.
But you know, like, that's two social topics that they tackled in 1952, and not in an offensive way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't know. It was just made for everyone. So I mean, they just, you know, that's why the art and the stories are so good. Because if they did a bad job, then they wouldn't get, you know, they wouldn't get to do it anymore. You know, so they had to make sure everything was top notch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like the art in this one. It had a little more of a cartoony style, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, like with the faces and stuff, and you know, it was like one of those. It was like a gangster story, you know, but it had like that little supernatural sort of twist to it, you know. So you know, you know, and it's like like every, I don't know. It had like a lot of tropes that a lot of things have, you know, like like the lower guy always wants to take the big guy's spot, and you know this and that. And,
oh, of course, you know,
like you know, G.I. Joe and you know, Cobra and all that stuff like that. It's just like a thing that's forever, you know. So yeah, that was cool. You know, it's like those little things are kind of comfortable because it's like you already get the deal. You know what I mean? And how are they going to handle this deal? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, in this story, you know, I thought that was pretty cool. Like because like he had plans for this one, and that one had plans for the other one, and it was kind of like a, you know, like a I don't know, like a good gangster movie. You know, there's always, you know, can't just all be about killing. There's got to have like a cool little plot with it too, you know.
Right. Yeah. What do you tell in a time of cops and robbers stories other than robbers versus robbers? Because, you know, so much back then was Elliot Ness versus the mafia, police versus the bad guys, you know, but the good guys are attacking the bad guys. And it's never like, what is the jungle like? You know, it's like these, you know, the jungle is still the jungle when it's fighting everybody else. There are still people that are trying to break their own hierarchies. And
you know, exactly. It's like, it's not the dark you have to be afraid with. afraid of. It's what's in the dark.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. You know,
And
it's
then
like this,
okay, and
this guy had an indestructible brother.
Who's
Yeah, pretty much.
who's the hero in this story? Willie, because he just didn't know no better. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Will,
pretty much,
Willie just
like,
wanted to take care of his brother.
this is how I would sum up like how you would summarize what each story would probably be. Like The World's Ugliest Man is pretty much about not treating people harshly, or you'll get what you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
The Demons Below Us is about you know, not trying to pretty much look at people that you don't understand differently and try to understand them and their beliefs and give them a chance and not freak out and treat them like they're something like a monster. And Willie, at the end of the book, he didn't know what to do because his brother died and he pretty much had a mental breakdown. So I would say at the end of that book, that lesson is to not pretty much rely on everyone and pretty much think for yourself. I would say that's the basis of what each book represents in a way.
Okay, but how did Willie die?
No, I don't think he did die. I think he from what I got from it, he just ran off because the guy on the ground was the guy that the woman was with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he just went on a killing spree and took off.
Yeah. I mean, basically, his whole life was
relying on his brother to relying on what his
and he you know, that's why he attacked everybody and this and that talked to him bad and stuff. And now he's gone. You know, now what? You know, like what's he gonna do now? You don't have anybody to tell him what to do anymore. You know.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, like the basics of what I gave, you know, not always relying on people and thinking for yourself, or you know, giving other people and other people's beliefs a chance and getting to know them, and not judging, not treating people harshly just because they look different. You know, stuff like this you wouldn't think to be a horror comic, but you know, back then stuff like that was horror comics, and you know, it'll be great to see stuff like that written now instead of just all about gore and blood.
Yeah. Scare people. Like, what scares you? Like, a lot of blood for no reason. Does that scare you? Or what scares you? Like, what about the person who put it all there? Like, how bad are they? What makes them bad? What happened to them that make them like that? Because now you're getting into what can scare, like what's really scary is what made the scary thing scary, you know. What made Jason Voorhees so scary? His mom was insane. His mom was a killer too. Like, that's what made him, you know. It's like, let's make it personal. Let's get on your level. Because you may not draw pentagrams in your backyard, but you do this. So here's what that can look like.
Yeah. Yep. I like blood and stuff too. I like gore.
It works. It works when the story is there.
Good. It's like I could look at things aesthetically or you know, a story. I like either one, and if it's got both, I really like it. No, these were like really, really enjoyable. Like, I love the old stuff. Like, you know, like just I don't know, like the old horror movies and old like just classic things that are horror. You know, like I don't know, like.
Oh, of course. I mean, just imagine like the first time people saw Frankenstein. You know, there was no gore, no blood. All they saw was Frankenstein playing with the little girl, and then all of a sudden she was in the river, dead.
Right.
You know, to a lot of people, that was horrifying to see for the first time in the theaters. You know.
Yeah. Hey, I thought he didn't kill her.
Didn't she? I don't know.
And that was kind of like the deal with the story. Like, he didn't kill her, but like all the crazy people that were coming with the pitchforks and stuff. Then he got mad and started killing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like he
Yeah.
really wasn't the villain, but he
Yeah.
was. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he just didn't know any better. He's like a a machine basically.
Yeah.
You know, just freaking out like, oh, what am I? What is this? Attack. You know.
Yeah, it's simple good. Like what's good when you boil it down to its lowest common denominator?
Yep.
Beginning, middle, and end.
Yep.
You know, here's what's scary. Here's why it's scary. Here's what happens next. Boom, boom, boom.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, because I've read a lot of this stuff. Some of it's garbage, dude. These first three were like really good. Like some of those old comics are just total trash. Like these three were just super good. Yeah, for some reason.
These were crafted. Like these were people who cared about it. You know, all three. And this was kind of the end of the supernatural in this book. Like it kind of turns a corner at this point. Not necessarily a bad corner, but it's a little bit different. Like for next week, but this was the scary parts. Like these were the ones that had like the supernatural aspect, and they start to drift into reality more and more as those threes go on, and then the next three happen, and just the early 2000 AD. You know, it's cool. It's just three. You know, stories don't have anything in common except for the narrator.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed these. These were really good. You know, I'm always a big fan of the old style of comics. You know, like the look.
Yeah,
I love that stuff. You know, I just like the whole aesthetic. So I really liked. I really enjoyed these first three stories.
Yeah, it's your color style. Like you got this, the simple palette, but the deep color. Like you know it's there. It's solid.
And you notice it, you know, when it's that's, you know, so
and it guides the story in its own way, you know, especially in that Demons Below Us story. Just art on 2000 on that on that one. I liked it all, but that one was unique. Like that was somebody that was into it. Like that was one of us, you know. It was like putting their foot in the art and in the color.
Yeah, that was nice, man.
Yeah.
But so, well, we got more to go. We got three more in this book.
Three more, in this one.
Yeah, and then we got so many more books to go ahead of us. There's like 12 issues or something like that.
Yep, and there's plenty of horror from this golden age that.
For sure. I mean, and this is just the Tales of Horror. This ain't even the Tales of the Crypt books and everything.
Yeah, Tales of the Crypt. There's all kinds of stuff. Tales of horror, Tales of terror. You know, weird terror, weird strange this, weird that, horror this, terror that. It's like, you know, there's a lot.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining me. Who is in the comments, Salazar Art Nation, and everyone that's on Facebook. And you're on my channel. I'm Ronnie Gunter, Crimson Owl Comics on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and soon to be having my website up. Robert?
Yep.
On YouTube?
Yep. Well, thanks for watching us. And again, we're reading Tales of Horror, #1. So you can find it. It's free and legal. I don't know. I'm not associated with the website. So I'm not going to say anything, but you can find it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, you're
if you want to follow along.
You're not advertising anything.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what? Oh yeah, you come look at my stuff if you want. I got more stuff coming. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But as far as their website, I don't know them, so I don't know if they want me talking about them. They might not.
Maybe I could get a hold of them to find out what that narrator's name is. That'd be cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, y'all take care. Fallbreaker Studios, Instagram, Facebook. Y'all be good.
All right. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Boo.